All right, how we doing? We're going to pick up where we left off at the Declaration of Independence. We saw in our last set of notes all of these problems leading to the United States declaring independence from Great Britain and forming our first national government. Okay, so as we go along here, find my cursor. Okay, the first state governments basically all had their own rules, very similar to each other, but not connected in any way. You look at some of these common features with these state governments. Um, the government gets their power from the people, popular sovereignty. They're limited government. They're not all powerful. Okay, they're not dictatorships or monarchy. Um, the individual citizens do have rights, civil liberties, and civil rights, and there is some sort of separation of powers between different parts of the government. But again, to start, it's 13 separate state governments all kind of doing their own thing, which is not going to be efficient or practical for a country. All right. So during the Revolutionary War, the Second Continental Congress comes up with our first national constitution, and it is called the Articles of Confederation. Okay, so write this down. We'll talk a lot about it. Okay, now the Articles of Confederation is created to be very weak on purpose. All right, you think about why they would want a weak national or federal government. It's because they just got out of being under a strong central government with Great Britain. So there's no way they're going to create this new national government to be just like Great Britain. So it's very weak. Some of the things, the articles in terms of weaknesses, it doesn't have power to tax. All right, you think about the whole revolution, no taxation without representation, and all the tea taxes and the stamp tax and the sugar tax. So the national government cannot enforce taxes. They can't enforce the laws. There's no national court system. Okay, and a big thing is it takes unanimous consent, all 13 colonies or states now, to amend it. Okay, and this is going to be impossible. There are 0 amendments in the Articles of Confederation. Okay, think about how difficult it is just to pass a law with 51%, let alone unanimous, 100%. Okay, so there's no power in the Articles of Confederation to tax, regulate trade between states. You have different states treating the other states differently, and there's nothing the federal government can do about it. So a lot of these problems are going to be addressed with the Constitution. Okay, so during this period, the new nation as a whole is not doing very well. Okay, states are printing their own money. States are taxing one another. Basically, the federal government told the states, hey, Massachusetts, we need this much money. Okay, we need this much tax money. Virginia, we need this much tax money. And the states just didn't pay it. The people just didn't pay it. So the federal government didn't have enough money to actually operate. With that, you have inflation, high prices. Okay, you have violence breaking out in certain areas. There's farmers in Massachusetts that go down and shut the courts down because they feel like the government isn't listening to them. And basically, the articles rested on the good faith of the states. Like, the states will do the right thing. People are virtuous. These citizens want to be part of this new government. They'll do the right thing. Well, no, that's not going to happen. Okay, so this is going to push us to create a new constitution, which we have today. So the framers, 55, all men, all white, pretty young, all educated, have political experience, own property. So it's kind of the best of the best in terms of the best and brightest in the country. Okay, they meet in secret. Okay, you see Jimmy Fallon doing a little secret dance. And why that is because they wanted to hammer this thing out. They didn't want outside influences trying to change the process. So they met for about 4 months in Philadelphia. Originally, they talked about, let's just change the Articles of Confederation. Nope. They're going to go and completely scrap it at the Constitutional Convention, 1787, and they come out with a brand new Constitution. All right. Now, some of the issues that are going to be the biggest issues at this convention is who gets the power. Okay, everything is about power in the government. Okay, two big plans. Virginia comes forth with this plan. They say, hey, each state, you should get as much representation based on your state's population. Okay, which state do you think has the most population? Virginia. This benefits big states. New Jersey, which is one of the smaller states, says, no. Okay, let's have one house. Let's have one vote per state. All the states are equal. Who does that benefit? Small states. So you have the big states want it based on population. Small states want it based on one per state. And what do? Something called the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise. A man by the name of Roger Sherman comes forth and says, why not both? Okay? And this is how we have our system today. We have a House of Representatives based on population. So California has 53 representatives. All right? Montana has 1 representative. All right? So the House is based on population. This is the Virginia plan. The Senate, everyone has equal. Wisconsin has 2 senators. California has 2 senators. Everyone's equal. So this will get in deeper when we look at Congress and who has the power and the Electoral College. But basically, the whole key to this Constitution is compromise. The biggest compromise is how to determine representation in Congress. Okay. Other issues, slavery. All right. We're going to have the Civil War in about 80 years from this time period. And the other issue is how are we going to tax and count slaves for state representation? Now, if you're in the North, you're saying they count for nothing. Okay. They can't vote. We're not counting them for representation because Northerners don't have slavery for the most part. There's still slavery here and there in the North, even up until the Civil War. The South, they said, no, count them for 1. Okay. What they're going to do is come together with something known as the 3/5 Compromise, written in the Constitution, okay, that slaves will count for 3/5 of a person for representation. So, again, this issue of slavery, which will lead to the Civil War, is being compromised on because they know that if they don't compromise, they're not going to have a constitution. Okay, same thing here with the slave trade. Okay, slave exports. The North, all right, is heavily relying on trade. The South heavily relying on slave trade. Okay, so the federal government is not going to tax exports. All right, to start, and they're not going to interfere with the slave trade. So the big thing, why would they compromise? Because they need to get this thing done. Okay. Now, obviously, long term, it's not going to work out well for the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be killed in the Civil War and the 4 million slaves on the eve of the Civil War. But at this time period, they're doing what they felt was right to get this Constitution hammered out. Okay, so they need 9 out of the 13. All right, the Federalists, they're going to be the group that favors the new Constitution. They say, look at the articles, it's a joke. This is why we need a strong federal government. Versus the anti-federalists who say, no, this Constitution, you're just creating a new monarchy. The president is basically a king. You're just going back to the way things were. So you have the federalists, they want a strong federal government. The anti-federalists want a weak federal government. They want the states to have the power. And we spend some time looking at these two groups quite a bit in class. Well, spoiler alert, the federalists win because we have a Constitution. Okay, it goes into effect 1789, basically on the faith and the promise that they're going to add a Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that protects individual rights. There's something the Anti-Federalists are not going to forget about, but that'll come in 1791. Okay, and as Ben Franklin says, the Constitution was imperfect, but it's pretty darn good. 230 years later, we still have it. We still use it. And it took a lot of compromise and trial and error to get us there. So that's all for today, and hope you have a good day. See ya.